Hello, and welcome back to Babson 15, Babson Athletics' newest segment to highlight the week that was in Babson sports. My name is Jonathan Liskov, and today I am joined once again by two varsity goalies, women's soccer goalie Morgan Fedosowicz and men's soccer goalie Itai Rubin. We've got no time to waste, so let's get right into the week that was in Babson sports. Women's soccer beat Emerson 2-1 and tied Springfield 0-0. The team is climbing up the NEWMAC standings. Men's soccer beat Coast Guard 1-0 with a goal from Lyndon Way, improving to 7-3-2 on the season. Women's field hockey kept rolling as they beat Springfield and Keene State 6-0 and 6-1 respectively, with goals from 8 different players over the two games. Millie Brady was named NEWMAC Offensive Player of the Week, scoring 4 goals this past week. The team bumped up a spot in the national polls and now sits at number 5 in the country.
Women's volleyball played 4 games this week, beating Brandeis and Wheaton 3-0 each, and also played 2 hard-fought games but fell short against third-ranked Trinity, Texas, and Endicott College. The Babson men's golf team debuted at number 2 in the initial GolfStat Division III rankings. This is the highest ranking in program history, who boasts the second lowest adjusted stroke average in the country. The team has won each of its 4 tournaments this fall, and senior Nicholas Gianellos and sophomore Jackson Rothwell are both among the top 30 individuals in Division III, ranked 13th and 27th respectively.
Itai, we're very excited to have you on the show today, and I want to give you a quick little introduction as the audience needs to know how successful you've been this season before we ask you some questions. Not only did you just recently win NEWMAC Defensive Player of the Week, but there has been 310 minutes of men's soccer since the last time you've seen a ball go over your head for a goal. And you are tied for second in Division III with 7 shutouts. So the reason we're so excited to have you on the show today is because we want to get behind what makes you so successful and how you can sustain success like that. So thanks for coming on and talking with us.
Yeah, it's good to be here. So first things first, obviously I have to thank the defense who have just been instrumental in our success, and the rest of the team encouraging each other. It's all about the team spirit, and that's just the main focus here, really. Obviously, my responsibility is to save balls, but you can't do that without a bad defense or a good defense. So,
absolutely. Yeah. And the first question I have for you, I'm actually going to deflect to Morgan first, because last week we had a goalie on the show, and I walked away and I was thinking, I really want to hear just a little bit more from Morgan, because I like watching her play and I respect her game a lot and the way she plays such an aggressive goalie. So I'm first going to ask her this question, and then I'm going to deflect it to you and see what you think about her answer, and see maybe if you have some things you agree with, some things you disagree with. But Morgan, for you, what is one key principle, one key skill or mindset tip or anything that every goalie should have in goal with them?
Well, I'd say, for me, there's 2 specific things that I think about. One is you have to have a short-term memory as a goalie. If you constantly think about the last play or the last goal that happened, it's going to mess with you for the rest of the game. And secondly is just having the mindset that you can't have a perfect game, and not striving to have a perfect game, but doing the best you can. Because if you let one bad distribution, one ball you should have caught, and that just stays in your head, every time you make a play, it's just not going to be good enough, and you won't be satisfied with your performance. So short-term memory and not striving to be perfect, but just doing the best you can are my 2 things.
She said, wow, yeah, that's a good answer. I'd also like to add that for mentality, just being ready to save every shot, no matter how hard it is, and just going for it. No matter if it may seem like it's going in or not, just go for it. Yeah.
I think that those are both great answers, and the best part about those is I think it's applicable to not only being a goalie, but being an athlete at almost any position of any sport.
Never
you need
give
to
up.
have that short-term memory. You need to be ready for the ball to be hit at you, the kick to be going towards the net. You always need to be ready. So I think that those are tips that anyone can really take, especially goalies.
Yeah. So now moving off of that, obviously being a soccer player, especially a goalie, it takes a lot of mental toughness to succeed in that position. You can see in professional soccer, goalies just unraveling all the time after one mistake on the big stage. So what would you say is your biggest mental challenge as a goalie?
I would say to be constantly focused on the next play. There are a lot of distractions at the game. You know, you have the fans, you have the players, and just anything can distract you at any time. You just have to stay focused on the ball and what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, for sure. And do you have any like techniques you do to like stay focused? Like, do you try and like stay active, like communicating or like walking around the field to kind of stay active in the play or something like that?
Yeah, so I believe that communication is big in how you're successful and how you stay focused on the team. I mean, you can never talk too little on the field, so I'm always talking.
Because it's really easy to kind of let your mind wander. And like as a goalie,
Absolutely,
like you might
yeah.
not be touching the ball all the time. You could go like 75 minutes not touching the ball, yet you're called upon like in 1 second. So you really have to stay focused.
If you were to tell someone right now during an interview, which this is exactly what this is, what's your favorite part of the game of soccer at its core? What do you love about the game?
Initially, I just love the adrenaline rush of flying through the air and saving a shot. That's just what makes me happy.
Okay, that's a good answer. And fundamentally, on the game on the field, do you love the skill set that it takes to be a soccer player, the athleticism as far as you are really only using pretty much one half of your body, not you personally, but the game at its core? What else about soccer kind of like is charming to you?
Just the way it flows and how sometimes there are bad moments, but it's part of the game, and the good moments are what make the bad moments worth it, you know?
Yeah.
That's a great answer. And now, obviously, the men's soccer team over the past few years has had a lot of success, and this year as well, doing pretty good. So what would you say is the best part of this Babson men's soccer team on and off the field?
I think that today we are lucky to have a good group of guys, different than previous years because of COVID. It has brought us together in that in previous years that we haven't been as close, but because of COVID, everyone wants to be with each other even more now because they missed out last year. So I think that's really helped us become closer as a team and really develop as players.
And what's like the biggest like advantage you guys have on the field, you would say?
I'd say our biggest advantage would have to be just our responsibility to constantly win, I'd say. We just want to win.
And does that come from the team culture? Is that something that comes from the coach culture? Where does that kind of like quote unquote responsibility come from, rather than just go out there, play hard? No, we have a responsibility to win the game today. Where does that come from?
I feel like it comes from the courts, comes from the players and the coaching staff actually, but as players we always want to win. You never want to lose, even as a coaching staff still. So
I have another question I want to deflect to Morgan and then see what she has to say.
Sure.
Because
I'm getting interviewed
no,
today.
like I said this before the show, this is a goalie pod. I mean, we've had back-to-back weeks where I'm sitting in between goalies, so I'm going to use that dynamic in my favor.
that's fair.
I'm going to ask Morgan what she thinks, and I mean, like I said last week, I mean, it's almost like an odd man out situation, so I'm going to try and act normal. I'm going to try and act like I'm not
Don't be
fully
nervous.
uncomfortable right now. But
Yeah.
with this, it's okay. It's okay. We'll go from there. So, Morgan, where does your confidence come from in goal, and how important is confidence for a goalie throughout the entire game? And how is the confidence for a goalie different than necessarily it would be for someone who's playing like up and down the field?
Well, the biggest difference is a goalie is the last line of defense. If you make a mistake out in the field, typically it's not directly going to result in a goal. Whereas as a goalie, if you make a mistake, it's a goal pretty much. So I'd say confidence is probably the number one most important thing for a goalie, because you have to be confident in yourself to make the right decision and make the right play. Otherwise, it is so easy for things just to unravel and go terribly wrong. I'd say for me, confidence honestly has been something I've struggled with like the entire time I've been a keeper, because I just want to have a perfect game every time, and if it's not perfect, then confidence goes down. But to try and keep it up, I just try and recognize everything good I've done in a game, and I go back and watch film a lot and try and see, okay, I thought that wasn't good, but looking back at it, it really wasn't that bad. Or a distribution I thought didn't go where I wanted. Okay, it was actually closer than I thought it was. So being able to go back and recognize what you did well helps you build confidence for games after that.
I agree. Confidence is very important. It also ties into pressure. If you lack confidence, then the pressure may go to your head and may negatively impact your game. So having good confidence is really key in sports.
Now, I have a question for you. Obviously, I've known you for a few years, and the last couple years at Babson, we had 2 senior goalies that graduated who got most of the minutes, and you didn't see the field as much your first few years here, but now you're starting every game. So how did you stay motivated the past 3 years, like not being able to play the game, but just practicing and learning from the goalies there, and how did you come in prepared this season?
I'd say I'd always have this thing in the back of my head telling me you always have to be ready for whatever happens. To say both keepers get injured, you have to be ready to come onto that field and start just like you're number one. And I feel like that mentality has helped me progress as a player and also a person to really become successful.
Were there ever times you wanted to give up or just you were getting frustrated at it? And if so, how did you kind of bounce back mentally?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like any player is never perfect. You're always screwing up in some way. Coming back from that, you always have to keep the mentality and that next play is going to be better. Next play, I'm going to save this shot and atone for what I did badly on.
Do you have one save that stands out to you from either your time at Babson or before your time at Babson as one that has impacted you, either like made you realize, wow, I can really play this position at a high level and be a very good goalie, or it was just one that is super special in your mind?
I'd say the biggest one was the PK save I made. There were thank you. There was a lot of pressure on that moment for me to decide the game and the fate for the rest of the games as well. And I stayed focused and confident, and the pressure didn't come to me, and I saved it.
Especially like in a penalty shot situation, like the pressure is not on the goalie whatsoever. It's like the scorer's ball to not score. And so like as a goalie, like you just have to like be confident and think like you've picked up on their cues properly, you know where they're going to shoot.
Exactly.
And try and get in their head. So that's a great answer.
So before I ask my last question, I just want to thank you for coming on and talking with us today. You have had a great season so far, so I wish you the best going forward for you and the entire men's soccer team. I'm sure you are going to have a lot of more success and a lot more great saves. And Morgan told me that she was really excited to have the opportunity to speak with you today and kind of pick your brain about the position as well as kind of your preparation that goes into a soccer game. So thank you for coming on and talking to us today. And the last question I have for you is, if you were to give a piece of advice to, say, a 5th grader or a 6th grader who has an aspiration to be a college soccer goalie, and they want to take the steps and they want to be ready for when that time comes, what advice would you give them?
That's a good question. I'd say pursue your dreams first and foremost. Secondly, there's never enough work you can put into both physically and mentally to get you to where you want to be in life, no matter where that is. Yeah. That's the biggest takeaway.
And just like to build on that quickly, like if you could talk to your younger self as a goalie, I'm not sure how young you were when you started playing goalie, but what is like one thing you would say to yourself growing up?
What I just said, I think definitely. Okay. I don't think I put in nearly as enough work in myself as I should have when I was younger.
Well, great answer. Great answers to all our questions. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Pleasure to be here.
And we hope you all enjoyed the episode.
Until next time.
Thank you.